In the next conversation, we want to talk about MITI. This is the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. We keep asking us, so MITI is how many state departments? There are 2 state departments. The other day we had a conversation with the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Trade and Industry, Dr. Mukwana. Today we have a conversation with the other Principal Secretary in the State Department for Investment Promotion. His name is Abubakar Hassan Abubakar. Good morning, Pana PS.
Good morning, Eric.
Karibu sana to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante sana, asante.
So when you say Abubakar Hassan, we also have to add the other Abubakar.
Yes, Abubakar Hassan Abubakar.
Okay.
Mauko kwa ground kwa nanitanga Abubakar Hassan Kwiji.
Kwiji. Sawa.
Yes.
You remember hiyo ni jina ya ground.
Hiyo ni ya ground.
Here we go officialdom.
Yes.
Yeah. PS karibu sana to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante.
That's a hot seat. Like I told you, we have
It's
hosted.
really hot.
Is it?
I can feel it.
We hosted your colleague, the PS for Trade and Industry, Dr. Mukwana. He came, he told us about the State Department for Trade and Industry, about industrializing the country. Yours is investment promotion. We want to understand what exactly that means, what your mandate is. But let me first welcome you to the conversation with the day's proverb, courtesy of CT Muga, who unfortunately is not in today. Alisema mambo ni tatu.
Mambo ni
tatu.
Either
tupeleke studio kwake
or
ama tuzime station
or
ama tufanye bila yeye.
So now
wacha tufanye bila yeye. But he's watching.
Yes.
And he says good morning to you. So the day's proverb is from South Africa. And today's proverb is, when a bird builds its nest, it uses the feathers of other birds. When a bird builds its nest, it uses the feathers of other birds.
Okay. I
What's
thought
your
you'd give me
interpretation?
a Swahili proverb.
Now that's in Swahili.
that's Swahili.
Yeah, that's Swahili.
Okay. I think my view is that if you need to use others to build something, yeah. So if you have a goal, you need to have a team so that you can leverage on their strength to achieve that. Or you cannot achieve it alone. I think that will be my interpretation.
You've got to use others.
Yes.
To be able to actually achieve what you want to achieve.
Yes. Yeah. It's all about inclusivity.
And collaboration.
Yeah, and collaboration.
Asante.
Yeah.
So introduce us to the State Department for Investment Promotion.
Good. First, the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry has 3 state departments. Not 2.
There are 3.
Yeah, one is investment promotion, the second one is trade, and the third one is industry. So it's called MITI. Yeah, so Mukwana is the PS for industry.
Yes.
And there's another PS for trade.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm the PS for investment promotion. So basically, this state department is a private sector state department. Its mandate is basically to continuously and constantly engage the private sector to identify areas of constraints so that we can have a reform action plan and remove them. If there are any issues, incentives to be created, if there are any obstacles or impediments to be removed. That's its first agenda. The second agenda is to coordinate the promotion of private investments into the Kenyan economy, both domestic and foreign. And the third mandate is basically oversight of the enablers to investment, like the special the economic zones, incentivized ones, yeah, like the special economic zones and export processing zone. You know, there's another one called KAIB,
Yes.
but so far it is not incentivized. Yeah, but what falls under me are incentivized economic zones.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you say incentivize? What do you mean?
Incentivized, that means there are fiscal incentives.
Okay.
Yeah, because in an economic zone, you can have both fiscal and non-fiscal. Non-fiscal, it can be the infrastructure, which is already there for you to come and just plug and play, like just normal industrial area. All these types, we are building them we are building the infrastructure so that it can attract investors to come and plug and play. But so far, we have not had fiscal incentives, the tax issues around those kinds. But in special economic zones and export processing zone, or if you set up there are some tax holidays and such things.
Are we looking at the invite? I hear you then that it would be essentially an invite, whether open or closed, towards individuals or organizations who would then come in under an investment portfolio into the country, and then the certain things would be done for them in order to make them, or rather ease doing business. So is this opened in the country? You mentioned internal and external.
Yes.
So this is open to investors, domestic and foreign.
And foreign investments.
How does that exactly work? Do they speak their interest, or is there something where we kind of look like an open tender where people can then come in and say, we have this available, these are the places where you can come essentially and plug and play, because we set up these zones? Because that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
These zones are plug and play.
Yes.
The infrastructure has been set up. You come in and do business.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So is it then opened up?
It's open up.
Okay.
Yeah.
How
Kenya,
does that
the message,
process work?
our message to investors, both domestic and foreign, is that Kenya is open for business. It's ready for business, and we mean business. So it's open. Like even in February, we did a market sounding of, we advertised all our special economic zones, especially the Dongo Kundu and the Naivasha, so that we can see what are the interest in investor interest in the same. I'm happy to report that we got an interest of almost 460 billion Kenya shilling investments, which needs to flow into those two zones. But right now we are just screening them to see how land can be allocated vis-a-vis the amount of investments to be put in there.
Okay, maybe we can land this a little bit.
Yeah.
What kind of investments are we talking about? And how would Kenya, at the end of the day, one would think or assume that Kenya would then be on the beneficiary end when it came to this? What kind of projects are we talking about? What kind of investors and what kind of things are they coming into the country, or then even if they're domiciled here, what are they doing? What kind of business are we looking at?
Ordinarily, it's all investments, because we are investor-centric. But as a country, we need to funnel and channel investment into our priority areas. So we have priority value chain, which the president has pronounced himself. And those are the areas which we are trying to channel investment. We believe they are very impactful to the Kenyan economy. They are very labor-intensive. It will create a lot of jobs, and it will have the impact of creating jobs, reducing cost of living, having the building up of our foreign exchange reserves, all those parameters which are in our Kenya Kwanza manifestos.
Please just explain the difference between special economic zone and export processing zone.
Three major differences, but two are really major. One is on market access.
Okay.
If you operate on a special economic zone, you can export 100% and also sell to the local economy 100%. Okay?
Okay. So everything that you produce within a special economic zone, you can decide to sell everything locally.
Yes.
And nothing locks you.
Yes.
Or you
Subject
can decide
to payment of taxes,
export.
100%.
And nothing locks you.
Yes.
Okay.
But if you operate in an export processing zone, you can export 100%, but local only 20%.
Okay.
So it's a market access issue.
In terms of incentives?
In terms of incentives, there's another difference in terms of fiscal incentives, not non-fiscal. Non-fiscal is same. Fiscal is like when you operate in EPZ, the first 10 years, for example, on a graduated is zero tax on corporate tax, and in the SEZ is 10%.
10%
for the first 10 years.
You pay 10% for the first 10 years. If you are in an EPZ, you don't pay any for 10 years. But is there a guarantee that you will stay on for another 10 years? Or can somebody come in and set up in the EPZ, operate tax-free, but the 9th year they close, they move to another EPZ?
That's a risk. That's a risk.
But who takes that?
We believe that can be managed because it's about business. You cannot have business which is growing and then closing it down, but that's a risk. You can do that and close down after 10 years.
Okay.
Apart from EPZ in Athi River,
yes.
Do we have any other EPZ in this country?
Yeah, we have like almost 80 EPZ, both private and public. The Athi River one is public. Yeah, so the Athi River is public. We have another EPZ at Kenani, just to specialize on the leather value chain. I think we have another one in Mombasa. Yeah, so there are around 5 public EPZ. And we've gazetted more EPZ. Just the president, you remember he was mentioning about Uasin-Gishu.
Yeah.
And then we have for Busia, yes, Ghana. We have gazetted more EPZs.
What goes through, what happens? How do you identify an area and you decide that this one we're going to designate it as an EPZ and gazette it as an EPZ? What precedes this?
Okay, first, one of pillars of our economic growth is industrial growth. And for us to grow industrially, we need to build or grow our industrial base. And for us to grow our industrial base, we need to increase our industrial spaces. And the industrial spaces are limited in Kenya. The problem, investors are coming and they're saying they don't have land. And if you get land, there's some community resistance, either due through low sensitization or political interference. So they need industrial spaces which the government is in control, which is infrastructurally enabled, and it is a geographical place designated as such, and the fiscal and non-fiscal around it, so that you can cluster industry together, so that they can benefit from the economics of agglomeration to reduce the cost of business.
What's the face of these zones in the country? And I'm asking this in relation to what Kenya then is reaping. Obviously, you invest in something to be able to reach or reap some kind of benefit that then contributes to the money that the country will make, very simply, right? So what does it look like today? If we look at the money that comes into the country today, what are these zones or what are these investment portfolios actually contributing currently? That we can say, okay, these are the number of dollars and cents or shillings and cents that are actually coming in as a result of these zones.
For example, there is one value chain which is the gateway to manufacturing in Kenya, which is the textile and apparel value chain.
Yes.
And you can see at the river most of the industrial investment which has been attracted there is in the textile. So that kind of industrial investment, first, it meets one of our impact of job creation. It's very labor intensive. Two, if you operate in an EPZ, it's for export. So it also gives us the foreign exchange. Yeah. So those are the kind of value chains which we believe that they will attract the industrial investment to make sure the jobs are created. There is income. The revenue, the government will raise revenue out of those, and will also get the forex by exportation.
But are we able to track as of today what it's contributing? And is it something significant that we can say, well, if we didn't have them, there would be a dip in terms of what Kenya makes?
Yes, we can. We are tracking them. In fact, as a state, our State Department, we have a target. Yeah, we just talked about the mandate. Yeah, but allow me to go deep into it. Let me talk about the structure, our aim, and our target, and our strategy, and how we can achieve the same. So our aim basically is to position our country as a preferred investment destination in Africa, and we have a target. We've been given a target of $10 billion US dollar FDI. Okay, FDI. Or TTI, but we are not saying
10 billion USD foreign direct investment coming into the country.
Direct.
Within how long?
In fact, the target we've been given is within a year.
From when?
From the day the State Department was created, January. January 2023.
Okay.
$10 million.
$10 billion.
$10 billion. Yes. All right. So now we're 8 months into the thing. How much has actually then been collected of that $10 billion?
First, you need to understand that the trend. First, let me talk to you about the trend.
Yes.
The highest ever FDI which came to Kenya is in 2011, which was $2.1 billion US dollar. Right? That was just immediately after the constitution.
From one source?
No, from different
across
sources.
Cumulatively?
Cumulative is $2 billion US dollars. And before handshake, there was $1 billion US dollar in 2017, 2018. Then after that, it has just been dwindling. The latest is around approximately $500 million US dollars. So what we are saying, we have put strategies in place to ensure that this target is aspirational, and we believe it's a challenge that we are willing to take and are not willing to postpone, and we believe we'll reach it. will attain it. But come what may, we'll be able this year, God willing, with the support of the president, that we'll be able to reach a target that is, as we are breaking the record of the 2011.
We will go beyond the 2.1 billion by the end of this.
By the end of this year,
in terms of investment coming into the country.
Yeah. Because if you look like Moderna is already a $500 million, the one which was signed. Yeah, there is an investment which is what was done in Kisumu by United Green. It's a $250 million. In Dongo Kundu, we had an investment of Taifa Gas, almost $250 million. That is already $1 billion.
That's already $1 billion.
And we are aggregating all those investments coming in. We are confident that we will break the record.
But
our target is 10 billion.
We are realizing investment at the point of announcement, or is it at the point of actual investment? For example, Moderna.
Yeah, we have signed it and there will be groundbreaking next.
There's 500 million shillings, but it hasn't come in yet.
But there will be groundbreaking next month.
So it's a declaration of intent.
No, it's not an intent.
That's when you clock it.
When you have an agreement, it's not an intent. That means you will do it. It's when to start. Intent is intending to invest. You have agreed, we are investing, you have signed the agreement, is to start.
Okay.
Yeah, and they will groundbreak, I think, next month, possibly.
Taifa Gas has broken ground.
Yes, they have broken ground.
They're already going on.
Yes.
So we can say at least a bit of that 200 million shilling
it's flowing.
Is already flowing in.
Yes.
Moderna, not yet.
Yes, it will start next month.
The Kisumu one, not yet.
Not yet. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you come to present your report at the end of the year and you tell us you've already achieved 1.5 billion shillings, it will not be because it's on the ground. It will be because contracts have been signed.
Notable investment agreement which you have signed, but there are many, and we will give you the Ministry of will give the report.
Okay. You were giving us the other targets, and also you told us that your main aim is to position Kenya as a preferred investment destination.
Yes.
In Africa.
Yes.
Your target, $10 billion FDI.
Yes.
Year on year.
Yes.
Any other target?
Target is FDI.
This is it.
The meaty targets are 3 targets. One is FDI to convert it from $500 million to $10 billion. The level of manufacturing as a percentage of GDP from 7% to 15%.
By 2027.
As a percentage of GDP from 10 to 30. Those are the 3 meaty targets.
Can I look at this third one of exports from 10 to 30%? So we're looking at exports, and those are of materials that have been manufactured in Kenya.
Yes.
All right. So that's fantastic, because what it does is that it raises the manufacturing profile. It is a good thing that it can actually then be seen to say Kenya now gets from the level where it's not manufacturing to, I'll say not manufacturing because we had a conversation last week about power, right? And we're saying that we're only using a certain amount of power compared to South Africa, because we can see huge in terms of the industries that are moving in South Africa, and they're doing that because they're manufacturing in country, right? So we'll see that from what you're saying, that the manufacturing profile then will be raised quite significantly, and then the exports, the hope is that by 2027, that 30% would have increased to 30% from the current 10%.
Yes.
What is
by 2025?
By 2025.
Then by 2027, our GDP of manufacturing from 7 to 15.
To 15%. So my question is here: what is being done that informs this 20% increase of exports? Because it will play directly on manufacturing. Doesn't matter what you do. In order to export, you must manufacture locally. So that we don't even have to mention that. But what happens to say that this number will be realized, or that is increasing?
Okay, so that is, I told you that's every target is for each state department. So that is state department for state.
This is Dr.
for trade, for Kombudo. However, my role in that
this,
is that we have tools for attracting industrial investment which are export oriented.
Absolutely.
Which is EPZ.
Because we all touch on each other in one way or another.
Yes. So we are gazetting EPZ, we are attracting investment that are export oriented. So they will increase that percentage.
So I see a handhold in here. If you're bringing in FDI, as this state department, this money then essentially will go, simplifying it really, but it goes directly to these other two, whereby folks are manufacturing on this end, we're exporting on the other side. And that now shows that this money that you've brought in then is actually going out, bringing more money back in.
Correct.
So do you play kind of like tag with your other departments where you're saying, come on guys, you need to also be moving, because I can see FDI coming in, and if it's not being implemented or being used, then we have a problem? Correct.
We work on a collaborative approach. Our approach to doing things is on a value chain approach from a product level, and also for the State Department, we work together on how this thing is from the production to value addition to market.
Okay.
Yeah, and all the investment opportunities and the business reform issues, ease of doing business in that value chain, we are able to identify and able to ease it if it's onerous.
What do you see as a problem towards having these, number one, goals attained, and number two, implementation of some of these things that you've spoken about? What do you see as the challenges today?
Okay. One of the challenge of FDI, for example, has been the negative social sentiment on economic dominance by FDI in certain economic sectors. You've heard about the China Square. Yeah, so people tend to think that they come and do everything. Yeah. So the solution there we are trying to do is to make sure we are promoting linkage between FDI and the DDI, so that when the FDI flows, they integrate with DDI through linkages and local sourcing, so they can feel part of that global value chain. And two, we are coming up with something called a negative list or a restricted list of what FDI can do. Yeah, there are certain sectors of the economy that FDI cannot touch, maybe because of its sensitivity, or maybe restricted to our small DDR. So that is what we are doing. There are certain sectors where they can move freely, certain sectors maybe you can move jointly together, and certain sectors you cannot touch. That is how we are trying to.
What determines that? Because if you look at retail, so you can come and say that you cannot come and be a hawker, but you can come and set up a retail shop.
So, no. We want them to stick to manufacturing, so that the retail can be done by. But that's a policy issue.
Okay.
It's right now with KIPRA, so that they can validate it in terms of evidence. Then it will go through public participation, and then it will go all the way to the cabinets to be approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the EPZs for a bit.
Okay.
Because they've been here for a while and we've known them. We know they are the River EPZ, the Mombasa EPZ, but that's just about it. The ones that are known. And we know that when you talk about those two EPZs, you'll focus a lot on textile and apparel.
Yes.
And you'll talk about export.
Yes.
So companies that have come, they've set up at the EPZ, they are employing our people to go and they're just seamstresses and tailors, producing high quality stuff. EPZs, you can sell about local 20% of what is happening at the EPZ can be sold locally. Do we see any of that? No, we don't. Not much. Well, I know you'll tell me that I saw there was a time when you had a KICC whole Masai market of EPZ products, but that's about it. How much of what comes out of EPZ actually gets into the Kenyan market, number one? And number two, a lot of EPZ has been focusing on exporting to the USA under the AGOA initiative. And then we'll review as AGOA is coming to an end next year. And you see we've barely even scratched the surface on what AGOA was giving us as an opportunity to access the American market. What have these EPZs been doing? What has the EPZ authority been doing all these years?
In terms of AGOA or
in terms of just promoting EPZs and making EPZs
it's the legal
work.
mandate of EPZ. It's in the law. All the institutions under me they have a mandate of promoting investment. Kenya Invest says a special economic zone and EPZ, and they have been doing that, and that is where you are seeing this level of exports out there. You know, in our forex stock, the highest forex is from exports. Is $6 billion US. The second forex stock is remittance, right? Right now we are doing at $4 billion US. The third one is on tourism. And the fourth one is FDI. That's the last. It's less than 500 million US. So you can see, but we are trying, but we need to work hard and make it better. Yeah, and the problem has been that most of our exports, we are exporting them raw. For example, our tea and coffee. And the president has given us a challenge that they should be exported, processed, or value added. Yeah. So I think EPZ is doing its level best but they can do better.
Not level best, but appears. And allow me to demonstrate.
Yeah, demonstrate.
Apart from, so the Athi River EPZ has several textile and apparel ones.
Yes.
I know there's an abattoir.
Yes.
And there are several others.
Yes.
Why haven't you been seeing Export Processing Zone Authority promoting factories setting up there to process for export? We talk about exporting our raw materials. Why aren't we seeing more EPZs apart from these two that I've mentioned that everybody knows about? So these are the EPZs.
We have just gazetted 3 more.
Now.
Because this is a new administration, yeah?
What has this EPZ authority been doing all these years? The mandate has not changed, has it?
But I ask question for this administration. I answer question for this administration.
Are you
so
able
far,
to tell
we
why
have
it is not doing
gazetted
this?
more EPZ, and we are going out there to make them more visible and to create awareness on what is EPZ all about.
What is the plan
Yes.
for in terms of what Kenyans then will be able to see, what the country will be able to see? That's on one side. And then even as we're going into looking at what the investment portfolio will look like for the country, why is there a heavy insistence on looking at an external source for investment?
On the FDI.
Yes.
So first is the breakdown on the forex. You can see FDI is the lowest. Yeah? But if you look at our private investment, if you look at the trends of private investment, FDI contributes to less than 1% to our GDP. Yeah, a lot of private investment is domestic. So we need to reverse that trend, because once we attract FDI, we are going to tick the box on the forex. Yeah, this FDI will come create jobs. We are taking the box of creating jobs. This FDI will come and, if they set up business, we'll get revenue for government. You're going to tick that. And it depends on where they're investing. If they're investing, for example, in the edible oil processing and all that, it's going to reduce the cost of living. So we believe that FDI ticks most of the boxes in terms of the impact we have to the Kenyans. We intend to have for the Kenyans.
There's been argument that when a government focuses so much on attracting FDI, it's giving so many incentives to a private investor from another country to come and invest in the country, and forgetting the local investor who's been struggling and laboring and paying all the taxes, right? So you are incentivizing somebody else to come and invest, and yet you're forgetting this goose that's been laying the golden egg all along locally.
First of all, we are not forgetting. I've said our program is to integrate them through linkages and local sourcing. 2, the zones are open even for domestic investors. They are not open only for foreign investors. So we are not forgetting them at all, but we want to put Kenya into the map, into the international map. We need to be globally competitive. So the more we attract the FDI, the more we are seeing that we are more globally competitive, and the investors will start flowing. This FDI market is, for 2021 statistics, it's a 1.6 trillion market. Out of the 1.6 trillion market where FDI flow, 81 billion came to Africa. 81 billion US dollar came to Africa. Out of that, only 8 billion came to East Africa. Out of the 8 billion which came into Africa, Kenya got less than 500 million. Half of it went to Ethiopia and other neighboring countries. So that means with the perception out there is that we are not globally competitive. So that is something which we need to reverse.
What is that? Because that's a big thing.
Yes.
Why is it that a lot of that FDI would go into Ethiopia, into other countries within the East Africa, and only 500 million would come to Kenya? What aren't we doing right?
Because
it can't be we're not positioning ourselves.
That's why we are strengthening our competitiveness, and also it's all about investor confidence, and that is what the president is doing now. Is our investment promoter number 1. And we're using him. We are using the embassies our embassies out there to promote Kenya. You can see even the ambassadors who are working, who are posted in Kenya. You can see the Meg Whiteman, what he's doing for this country. So that is what we're trying to do to position our country and also strengthen our competitive advantage.
Let me mention a couple of things, PS, and you tell me whether they are correct.
Yes.
In terms of impediments to foreign direct investment in the country. Number one, cost of power.
Right.
Number two, corruption. For you to get this land, you have to cough something. For you to get a license, you've got to cough something. And the entire we call ourselves, ranking highly in the ease of doing business, but Vituko ground, the different. Which any of those two be correct?
Okay. And that is what the president has put. I mean, the problem was weak coordination, of these investment opportunities. Everyone is doing their own thing. They need to be coordinated. And that is why this State Department was created. It was created to coordinate that. So no more brokers, no more corruption. If you have a problem, you come to my State Department, you'll be facilitated and coordinated across the government State Department for free. You don't have to pay anything. These are the measures we are putting in place.
Anybody wanting to set up shop in this country comes through your State Department and they get all the licenses, everything.
Okay. Our investment facilitation strategy is threefold. One is structured in three ways. You have to go to K-Invest, and we are changing the law to make sure it will be mandatory for FDI to be registered at K-Invest. So that is the first port of call. We are making it we are changing it from people calling it one-stop shop to a one-start and one-stop center. You start there and you end there. You don't have to parachute yourself to State House, parachute yourselves to me. You end there, and you are strengthening Kenya Invest to do that. However, if they turn out not to be facilitated and they frustrate you, then you can appeal. An appeal mechanism to the State Department. If you think the investor is still not satisfied, there's an appeal mechanism to the Minister of Investment, and the President has also operationalized National Investment Council, chaired by himself. It's about its job is to remove impediment, creation of incentives, and listening to these problems. So the last the last resort will be at an organ chaired by the President himself. So you can see how it is structured. From Kenya Invest, with an appeal mechanism to the State Department and the Ministry to the National Investment Council, chaired by the President.
Is this what was not working before?
Yes, I think so. Because once this administration came in, the first thing the President established this State Department. He has operationalized the National Investment Council. Now we are strengthening the Kenya Invest. We want to anchor the one-start, one-stop into the law so that we give them power to coordinate amongst the other government agencies, and all FDI must be registered there. For us to effectively facilitate you, we must know you first. We need to give you proper aftercare. But if you still believe that there's a problem, then there's an appeal mechanism to the State Department, to the Minister, and to the President himself.
The habit of how money comes into Kenya historically has been a habit of secrecy, in that nobody really knows how much has come in, nobody really knows how much has been spent. You look at the books later and then maybe there's a budget, etc. Here with FDI, essentially what you're looking at is huge amounts of money for the purpose of investment in the country and then going towards manufacturing and then export later. Will there be traceability elements here to be able to say, look, this is what came in, this is what it was used for, this is what we've realized at the end of the day, and will that information then be made available to anybody who looks for it?
Yeah, of course. It's all about data-driven, and that is the reason why we want them to register with K-Invest, not only for us to give them proper aftercare, but also for us to get us data for macroeconomic planning and policy decisions. From there, we'll be the main and the credible source of FDI, how it has come in and how it has been utilized into this country. And that is why we want them to register. We are reviewing our law, and that one will be there.
How long? What's the target? How long should somebody who wishes to come and invest in the country, how long before they actually can get everything sorted and ready to start?
It depends if they have everything. If they have everything,
they're ready.
And
they are coming, making the first inquiry to can invest, okay? And they're ready to go with everything. Flo, you asking for this documentation, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you, I need to pay for this license, I'm ready to pay. How long?
I don't think it will take more than a month. It will not take. Even if you want to register business, it will be 1 day, 2, 3 days, so long as you meet all the requirements. After registering the business, it's about the utilities, right? We have in a one stop, in the one stop, we have all the utility provider put in one place. Then after that is about the licenses, the approvals. We are having all the approval entities to be put in one place, and we are telling them to also delegate the powers to the people sitting in the one-stop center. Because if you go there and then someone says it has to go back to KRA or it has to go back to NEMA, still the process will take some time. So they will delegate the power, it will be approved there. So not more than 1 month.
What's the coordination with the counties? Because these businesses will be set up in counties.
Correct.
And we have seen investors complaining. So they get licenses at the national level. When they go to the counties, then they get another runaround.
And that is why right now we are working closely together with the Council of Governors. And you can see during the devolution conference, we are also working, we have a collaborative agreement with the economic blocks to make sure those problems are resolved. Yes.
Issue of confidence, and
Yes.
I'm going to throw this one out there.
Yes.
One of the people who is now advising the president
Yes.
on this whole structure of in the economy, on industrialization, is somebody who served in the cabinet secretary for this department and others that are around trade for 10 years. If those things didn't happen when he was in charge, he's now advising the president on how these things will happen when he's not.
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, how do we get the confidence? How do you assure us of confidence at this time? We don't expect, Abubakar to be the one who's now State
But
Department.
the president is advised by an economic team, not by one person. There's an economic team there chaired by the able Mr. Ndi. So it's not one person. Anything he says, it will be vetted by others, and it will be something which is really tangible for the president to act on.
Let's talk about CAIPs, the County Aggregation and Industrial Parks.
Yes.
What are those?
Okay. CAIPs means County Aggregation and Industrial Parks, and it is as a designated place, geographically designated place, which is infrastructurally enabled, so that for investors to come and plug and play, but for a certain purposes. The problems we are having with our farmers, one is when they produce, there's a lot of post-harvest losses, right?
Yeah.
Because either they do not have storage or they do not have storage things, and then they sell their products at a distressed rate. Two, the farmers, they do not know whom to sell to. So they are like, we are not producing. And the president is very clear, we need to be a productive country, and that is why we are subsidizing production, not consumption. So what do we do? How do we make farmers produce more? And you tell them, if your problem is post-harvest losses, then there is a place here where you can aggregate your produce. You can store them. We will put cold storage there if it's fish and those things which are perishable, and we can store them so that you don't have to sell at this place. Two, we'll get off-takers to come and once people know that there's a central place where you can supply you can get your goods, they will come there and off-take. So we are helping farmers to produce more, right? However, once it is aggregated there, the president is very clear, we should not be selling our products raw. We should value add and process. So the ACAIP will solve both problems of aggregating to help the farmers in terms of managing the post-harvest loss, but also once those products have been aggregated, now they can be processed, value-added, and industrialized. Right? And that one we will create, and that is economic transfer. We will create more jobs now at the industrialization, the value addition, and the processing. However, there's a third one. Once they have been aggregated there, there is something called commodities exchange. Once they are aggregated there, the farmers will be getting a warehouse receipt where they can use that to access credit, and those products can be able to be traded at the commodity exchange. So the farmers, while they are storing there, they can actually see the price of their product. So nobody can tell them, oh, this price has been depressed. They can see it at the market.
Okay.
Is it 47 KIPES?
Yes.
So
47 KIPES.
each county will have one
Yes.
aggregation industrial park,
Yes, based on their competitive and comparative advantage.
which means that the farmers have to be very well organized.
Correct.
So that produce at harvest is all picked, it's aggregated at farm level,
Yes.
at village level,
Yes.
and then it goes into maybe sub-county to come to
Correct.
the county.
Correct.
So have you done that backward
Yes,
integration?
there's with in collaboration with the State Department of SME, there will be a collection center at the ward level and at the constituency level to feed into the aggregation center at the county level.
Who
The
owns
farmers, State Department of SME,
Okay.
the collection center. What falls under the industry is the KIPE. Then there is the issue of the farmers needs to be put to be mainstream and formalized into cooperative. There's a State Department of Cooperative. We are working as a whole government together
Okay.
to address this problem.
I hear what you're saying in terms of how then this government comes in and then now says, this is where we are and this is where we ought to be going. And I'm going to focus on the KIPES a little bit
Yes.
and ask the question, does it come from an informative point of view where you look across the counties and you say, look, this is your strength, this is something that you have that we can actually manufacture, or something you grow that we can actually then turn into export, which then could feed into your FDI, it could
Yes.
feed into so many things. But then the current state of things, how is that being worked on? I'll take a county like Kilifi, for example, whereby the industry there, one could very easily say, would be something like cashew nuts. But the industry is on its knees today as we speak. The workers' poor state of things in terms of machinery doesn't exist, often broken down, or then worker care for the processing of the nuts and things like that, in a very poor state of affairs. But it could be yielding huge in terms of profits for the county and also on a larger scale for the country. And I'm sure we will find, as we go from county to county, different things that are not in the state in which they ought to be. And yet we are depending on them to bring in this much needed revenue. What would be the mitigation efforts on the in the interim to make sure that we get to where we are going? Because if Kilifi naturally produces cashew,
Yes.
and you can say we can depend on this, it's dead in the water because nothing is happening, right? If there's a tannery in another county and it can actually produce world-class leather, and there's a problem with its equipment and the care of its workers, we're not doing anything. So what would be the mitigation measures in the interim to make sure that it's actually up to the level where we say, fantastic, ease of doing business, check, conducive environment, check, let's go?
I think what we're doing currently with the counties are three things to make sure these KIPES will be operational, they will be functional, and they will be impactful. One is we are working together with counties to identify those value chain if it's cashew nuts, and those value chain must be bankable value chains, right? Two, we are looking at the market for this value chain, both domestically and international for this value chain. And thirdly, we are working with the counties on the business environment around in that county, so that now when an investor comes to plug and play in the KIPE infrastructure, he knows where to get the raw materials. The business environment is very conducive, and he knows where to sell those. So that is what we are working together, and we are soon developing a KIPE investment promotion strategy where we are starting to promote KIPES as a priority, because we don't want those KIPES to be fully developed or constructed in 1 year and there are no investors there. So we have a strategy in place. We are starting to promote those KIPES based on those three fundamental parameters which attract investments.
There's concern, PS,
Yes.
that backwards at the farm level, not enough attention is being put here in terms of creating awareness. And I know we have talked about value chains. So let's say Nakuru, there's a value chain for cotton.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if Nakuru focuses on the cotton value chain, then the cotton and pyrethrum, cotton and pyrethrum farmers would have to first of all be organized. They had stopped farming pyrethrum.
Yes.
Get them on board. I know organizations such as Kentegra are working in Nakuru County to get the farmers, sensitize them. Or now let's get back into pyrethrum farming. But then, in terms of cooperatives and organizing them, is enough sufficient effort being put now to start organizing farmer cooperatives so that they can have their structures in place? So as the KIPE is being developed in Nakuru County, and you're looking for investors to come and establish the storage and the value addition and the offtake and value addition, then the farmer will also be ready at that point.
I think that
the concern I've heard is that there's a lot of focus and attention on these big ticket investment items of the KIPEs and the building the KIPEs, but not on organizing the farmers.
So you think they are not being...
it's not happening simultaneously.
Okay. I think it's happening, and I will get an opportunity to call the PS, the Department of Cooperative. But we are working together as a team, and it's working. Maybe it's just about being felt, but we are working as a team, and it's being done. The products are being aggregated. The farmers are being put together through cooperatives, and we are trying at our level to cluster industry into the KIPEs.
Okay.
Yes.
If you look at, say, a county, and the county has more than one value chain, what kind of division of focus are you giving it?
Okay, if it has more than one value chain,
you'll find many counties that have, for example, they could have pyrethrum and dairy. They could have cotton and dairy. They could have cashew nut and probably dairy and leather.
Yes.
How do you split the attention?
Our philosophy, we are investor centric. Yeah. So we'll go with the investors' needs. So if we'll talk to the counties, and that is why we are talking to economic blocks. If an investment will make sense, that I will focus on cotton, so that other counties can bring their cotton, produce to be aggregated in another county, then so be it. We'll work together to make sure for the economy of scale. Rather than an investor coming and getting small produce, and then another investor in another county getting some, and they cannot make the business will not be commercial. They will not be commercially viable.
Okay.
Yes.
As you conclude on PS, what are your targets within the next 1 year?
The $10 billion.
That's it.
That's it. And my strategy is three-pronged. One, investment attraction. Under investment attraction, we have three sub-strategies. One, we are improving our investment climate and business environment. Two, we are building investment grade opportunities. We have opportunities, but they are not investment grade. We need to make them bankable opportunities for the investors for investment to flow. And three is aggressive marketing or campaign of both the climate, because the people do not take advantage. They take advantage of an opportunity, not the climate. So we are campaigning of both the climate and the investment grade opportunity. That is our investment attraction strategy. Once someone is attracted, it needs to be facilitated. We have a facilitation strategy. One is the first one stop at Kenyan Invest with an appeal mechanism to the State Department, the Ministry, and to the National Investment Council, chaired by the President. You will be adequately facilitated. Three, you need to be enabled. We know that our country is robust in the financial sector, and it has deep capital markets. But in addition, we have a program for co-investing with investors through our Kenya Development Bank and export processing zone and special economic zone to enable the investment to flow.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us. We'll use those to hold you to account.
Thank you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.